sort of semi-gloomy morning today, with a bit of a mist covering the landscape. And it's actually, I think it would be oh, look at that, there's some birds flying over there in a formation. Interesting. Pretty big birds too. Again, not surprisingly, I don't have my glasses with me. I feel like that's it might be sort of my catchphrase, you know, like Reiko. Wow, look at the sun, beautiful, poking out, you know, from the wow, look at that, from the clouds over there. Good boy. Ow, that was my finger, Drake. That wasn't treat. Sometimes he's like so excitedly takes the treat, he, you know, kind of grazes my finger along with it. So yeah, so there's the sun hidden behind the clouds, and as you can see, misty morning, slightly misty. And that formation there, yeah, I was talking about not having my glasses, and it could be my catchphrase. Seriously, you know, because like I feel like every time I'm like, oh, there's a bird over there, but I don't have my glasses with me, so so it's like, it's really yeah, it's really my thing. I don't know, I just sometimes I take them, but you know, I started wearing glasses like a year ago, so they're still not like a part of my sort of body, let's say, you know. It's like they're like an accessory and an equipment, and I just haven't fused with them, you know. So, and I don't think I ever will fuse with them, because I can kind of see like clearly and nicely without them. It's just like it's like kind of impressionists, you know. It's like it's a bit blurry, you know, but just a bit, you know. I couldn't read some text, for instance, but I see everything I need to see, you know. So, but yeah, I like, for instance, if I wouldn't have to say, okay, that bird, what is it like, and if it doesn't have a specific flying pattern, then I don't know, you know, because I can't see it clearly. If there's an animal over there, you know, I can't say if it's a, you know, a roe deer or, you know, perhaps a boar, because it's just blurry, you know. So yeah. But that was a formation, and of the birds that do formations are swans or geese. So most likely was one of those birds. And there are swans actually here on those ponds around here. So it could have been swans, because pretty big birds, or yeah, perhaps geese as well. Definitely not an uncommon sight. And we have a lot of beautiful voices. There's again the mistle thrush singing from over there. I've heard a nuthatch. And yeah, it's actually very sort of mystical, I would say, this morning. Very calm, very peaceful. Sort of more cold than last time, which is nice. And yeah, I promised you, hold on, let me blow my nose. See? I learned my, oh shoot, I learned my habit. So yeah, so let's go through these brambles here. Let's take this route of fallen trees. And I promised last time we talked about the apps for identifying birds. And I promised in the so let's do a little recap. We talked about the Collins Bird Guide app, and in the subtitles I mentioned Maryland Bird ID as well, because apparently that's a pretty damn good app lately, and an app that wasn't around when I was starting out, so I never used it. But the reviews are impeccable, you know, very, very good app. So we talked about those, and I promised you I'm gonna go over another app that I find extremely helpful and really amazing. You know, it's an app I fell in love with, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago perhaps. And oh, we got some calls here. This one's a tit, the one in up front. You know, before I delve into that app, I'm gonna say a bit about, I'm gonna say a couple of words about tits. So tits, especially gray tit, is a very common bird with a very specific song, you know, easy to learn, but there's a little catch. Gray tits have I would say an incredible, oh, Drake jumped over that, wow, look at him go. Okay, I didn't have to help him at all. Okay. Gray tits have an incredible sort of ability, I would say, to create calls and songs which are so unusual for their species, because you have this classic, you know, that's a classic gray tit, you know, a classic one. But there are some individuals that create an incredible variations of that sounds completely out of, like, completely unique really for that particular individual, and it sounds like nothing you've heard before, you know, and it happens actually quite often, you know, which of course I know it's not particularly encouraging for a beginner, but there is just some sort of a, I don't know what's really behind it, to be honest. I haven't read any study about that, but I've heard the same experience from so many people and so many birders. By the way, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but look at how beautifully vibrant. And I haven't took any drugs, by the way, but look at how beautifully vibrant this is. It's like a work of art, you know? Like sometimes I just stop by and I'm like, wow, you know? And it's a piece of dead wood, you know? But I mean, it's amazing, you know, the colors and the composition, and you have the lichen in there, and it's just beautiful, 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 you know? Yeah, just hit me, you know? Same here, you know, like look at that beauty, look at the beautiful, how it goes from, like it's all covered in moss, and then all of a sudden it's not, and then there's a clean bark with some like hints of, this is also some sort of a fungi that grows on it, you know, I believe, and it's like orangey or sort of yeah, like orangey in color, you know, like a ceramic sort of orange, you know, that is kind of intertwined with the grayish color of the bark. Now it really sounds like I took some LSD, but I didn't really. It just like hits me sometimes, you know. I just have to stop, and I'm like, isn't that incredibly beautiful, you know? Because some things we take for granted, and I take them for granted, you know. Like, I mean, walk through these parts all the time, and it's like you get used to it, you know. You're like, yeah, you know, moss, you know, beautiful moss, but yeah, moss, you know. But it's like so much more than that, you know, when you think about it. It's just incredible. So just a moment of appreciation for the small things. Anyways, so the gray tit has an incredible ability to use different like variations of that call that sounds nothing like you've heard before, because it seems to be unique for that particular individual, and it sounds nothing like, you know. So I've heard it from many people, as I said, from birders, from the ornithologists, from like all sorts of people that are like, yeah, man, like I've heard like great tits like confused me so many times I can't even count, you know, how many times that happened. And I can say the same thing. I cannot count how many times I was confused by a great tit. So regardless of your experience, regardless of how many calls you know, like there's gonna come a time where you're gonna be like, what the hell is that, you know? Is that some like rare bird that I have not, like some that I have not heard before, some like migratory species like that, you know, visited from Scandinavia or something? And you're gonna probably find out it's a great tit, you know, and you're gonna be like, what? So yeah, great tits are really interesting in that regard. And I don't know many birds that do that actually, you know, like a bird that would have a specific unchanged really song, you know, not like yellowhammers that have the accents, the regional accents I talked about. Yeah, no, great tit has the classic call and song that is sort of stable, you know, for all the individuals within those species, within that species. But yeah, there are, you know, exceptions to that rule, sort of, and those exceptions are extremely confusing, you know, because sometimes it sounds like really like nothing. You just can't match it with anything, you know. And if that happens, remember great tit, because it could very well be one, you know. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a piece of an interesting info about a very common bird called the great tit, Parus major. Excuse me. So yeah, I was gonna say something about that app, you know. Hopefully I'm gonna be able to cover it before we're like definitely in the half of the walk. So that app I fell in love with in like 3 years ago probably, and that app is called iNaturalist. iNaturalist, you know, I probably, you know, didn't use the right pronunciation there, but yeah, iNaturalist. And I'm definitely going to put the name in the subtitles, and also I'm going to put the link in the description for sure, like I did last time in the previous video. So iNaturalist is an incredible app, you know. I've like, and incredible is an understatement, and I'm not paid to promote them or anything, but I seriously love that app. It is, you know, it is, by the way, look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, I love that, you know, sort of dreamy, misty feel to it, you know, with a bit of sunlight. Very poetic, you know, very, very poetic. Shakespearean, I would say. Yeah. So iNaturalist is an amazing app that, you know, works in a way that it identifies species from photos and recordings. So kind of similar like Maryland ID that I talked about, bird ID that I talked about yesterday. But the difference there is that iNaturalist covers everything, every single living organism that is out there, you know, that you can photograph, that you can record, you know, if it's a bird, for instance, or a frog, for instance, a call of a frog, you can record that. So anything that you can capture this way, you can put and upload into the database, and there's a very smart algorithm that will, based on the photo, I have never used the recording functionality, so I don't know how that works for recordings. If it identifies the species from recordings, I am not sure, but I know from photos it works brilliantly. So whenever you're out, you know, in the nature, and hold on, let me call Drake, because I can, he's there. Okay, cool. So whenever you're out, you know, whatever like catches your attention, you know, can be a moss, can be a specific looking grass, it can be a flower, it can be a fungi, you know, it can be anything, a butterfly, you know, that, you know, sits on your knee, for instance, you know, like anything you can imagine. You take a photograph of it, you upload it to iNaturalist, and one of the most brilliant functionalities, it immediately, automatically, based on some algorithms and AI and all that, it will it will suggest a species for you, you know, and it's very accurate. Like, you know, it really did identify most of the time the right species right off the bat, you know. So either you can pick that species, like either you're certain, sometimes it's obvious, okay, yeah, that's that species, you know. So you pick that, and you right off the bat, you know what you came across. Right off the bat, you've got that species identified. So you pick that, and there is a whole community backing iNaturalist, like people like you using that app, professionals, scientists, you know, amateur ornithologists and biologists and mycologists, and, you know, you name it. So many people there, and once you upload that observation, people will review it, and they will either agree with that identification, or they will suggest different species. And once enough people, like 2 to 3 people, agree on one identification, it's ticked off, like, okay, that was successfully identified, this is that species, and it is being saved into the database, which is also brilliant. So because not only that it works as an identifying app, not only it's going to get your sightings and your observations identified, which is brilliant for you because you're going to learn that way, you know, plants and fungi and insects and amphibians, you know, not only you're going to learn about the world around you, you know, which I love, you know, for me, it's like it's just like such a satisfying experience, you know, because I'm extremely curious person, and I love nature, and I'm curious about those, you know, species and animals that I come across on my walks and, you know, out there in the nature. And that app helps me to, you know, to figure out what I saw, you know, and then I learn about it's like that I learn about the habitat and the, you know, reproduction cycle, and, you know, about its life, you know, like what is like some interesting pieces of information that I can then remember, you know. And it's just, I love it, you know, I love it. But not only that it works this way, it also works as a tool for citizen science. So that observation that is then, you know, successfully identified by you and the community, and it's confirmed. There's some tits flying over there. This is like a alarm call of theirs. This, like, yeah, that. Yeah, so there's like 2, 3 of them. Yeah, and sorry, I'm gonna blow my nose. So it works as a citizen science tool, you know. So in a way, when you're, you know, uploading and sort of, you know, entering those observations into the app, into the database, you can also do it from your PC. But obviously, an app is, you know, if you have a phone with you, you take a picture, you upload it right away, you get your identification. You need an internet connection for that, but yeah, you get your identification, and right off the bat, it is in the database. It's being approved and confirmed by the other observers and the other users, and right off the bat, it is in the database. And once it's confirmed, it can be used by scientists for various different, you know, for various different studies, for papers, you know, because it is a confirmed observation of certain species, and there are all the data. There is like time, you know, there's not only time, like daytime, but also the time of the year. There's a specific location because it captures your GPS location. and there is a proof, you know, you have the photo and the species, so it can therefore be used to map out different species, you know, it can be used to research all sorts of things. So it works as a citizen science tool. So not only like you're helping yourself, but you're also helping the, you know, scientific community, and you're helping, like, well, you could say nature conservation in a way, you know, through that. So it's fun and it's helpful, you know. So I feel like that is an absolutely amazing app, and it covers everything, you know, because you have apps for birds, like eBird, you have apps for, I'm sure, for like other species like butterflies and so on. Usually that's on websites, you know, it's not like an app. But iNaturalist embraces everything, you know, the whole nature, embraces every single species out there. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't discriminate. It's just, it takes everything, you know, and it helps you learn, you know, in a fun way, and it's completely effortless, you know, which is also brilliant. You don't have to search, you don't have to do like long research, and unless you're having fun with that, of course, but you don't have to do any of that. The app does it for you, you know. It recommends you the species. You can see the photos in there, and you can say, oh yeah, this looks like this. And maybe, you know, it's not true. It's like a different, I don't know, either subspecies or something else. But through that process, you're going to learn, and either you're going to get, you know, you're going to get your observation confirmed by others. Like, yeah, that's exactly it. So you pick the right choice, or, you know, the users will tell you, no, because this one is in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, so it's not this one, it's that one. But, you know, the app is really smart. It really recommends you or suggests you species that are only in your geolocation, you know, only in the part of the world where you actually are, you know. So iNaturalist is a brilliant app. I wanted to recommend because I love it, you know, I really do. It's so much fun, it's very helpful, and you can also identify birds with it, you know. You would have to get I would say fairly good photograph, not necessarily great photograph, but at least like somewhat recognizable photograph for an identification. But you can use recordings, and I've seen a lot of recordings of voices there that were then later identified by ornithologists and the community that is in iNaturalist. I actually identified a lot of those songs and calls myself, because you can actually do that. You can go onto the site if you're a user of iNaturalist, and if you have a field that you're good in, if you know your if you know your bugs, or if you know your butterflies, you know, then you can go in there into the database and see the you know, like unidentified species, you know, like the species that have a question mark, you know, and no one knows what it is just yet. So you can come in and you can start identifying all those observations, and then you're going to get backed up by other users as well, and so on and so forth. So you can learn that way too, you know, actually. And it feels good if you like identify something correctly and you get it, you know, confirmed by the community. So you can learn that way too, and help other people as well, you know, and do that work that some other people will do for you once you upload a species that you don't know. So yeah, iNaturalist, amazing project, highly recommended. And that's what I wanted to talk about, and I'm glad I managed to cover it before the end of this walk. That's great, because we're coming to the end of it, and that was that. yeah. So next time, you know. No co, Drake'u, co jsi našel? Drake's found some track. So yeah, you know, next time maybe I'm gonna just walk in silence, although I doubt that almost at this point. Because like every time I'm like, you know what, let's just walk today, you know, let's just not talk about anything. And it's just impossible, because there's always something, you know, there's always something. So next time, who knows what will happen and what we'll come up with, and what's gonna cross our path, you know, like an animal or, you know, something like a point of interest. Who knows? And I still haven't told you that story about the horse. Yeah, I still keep it in my mind, don't worry. But yeah, another time, I guess. Anyways, I'm signing off.